Want to thank Warp Sounds for that. That's an NFT that you can play right there. You own it, you play it, you can do what you want with it. Very similar to one of our speakers up here today, SpottieWiFi, producing his own sounds, his own beats, because that's what we're doing in this space. And we're going to do some talking today about kind of like the ownership and what you can and can't do with NFTs with that big news coming out earlier this week. And I know we're waiting for another coworker to get up here. Maybe he's stuck in a business meeting, but I want to introduce the coolest of the blue list right here, Leslie GMI. How are we doing on this friendly Friday, my friend?
GM, feeling amazing. It's Friday. We made it. And we actually have Crypto Novo, everyone we need. So we were hoping to bring Ryan up to the stage, but Ryan is not able to make it. He is still working on client meetings right now. So
I saw him in the meetings. I saw him in the meetings, and I kind of felt, I don't know, a little sorry that he was working, but he is working hard very much as everyone else in Vayner NFT on this Friday. We're working hard to get the live action out to you. And with us today, we have Bored Becky, degendata, and SpottieWiFi, where we're going to be talking about very similar things that we see, you know, your other half doing there, Cool Blue, your Cool Blue, as walking around as your NFT. Very similar to what I'm trying to accomplish here with, you know, my CryptoPunk, Crypto Novo, is where we're trying to take our NFTs to the next level. And what we saw with the recent collaboration, recent, you know, buy-in with Larva Labs, you know, now all the aliens, apes, and zombies, as I call it, are one big happy community. And what better way to do that and follow that is through the Venn diagram that degendata had for us. And we retweeted that because it had some powerful information in there. And degendata, how about you come pull up and talk a little bit about, you know, what a little bit about this Venn diagram that, you know, we have retweeted, what was it, 2 days ago?
Yeah, for sure. Please introduce yourself.
There we go. I'm sorry. I talk to you all the time, so I get the pleasure of talking to you, but definitely introduce yourself.
Thanks, Novo. Yeah. Well, thanks for the invite. Happy to be here. So I'm degendata. My background is a data scientist, and for probably the past 5 years, I've been focused on Ethereum on-chain data. I find the space super fascinating from all facets of DeFi to DAOs to NFTs, and I think that there's a lot of interesting things you can kind of pull out on chain. So that's kind of a quick little background on myself. The Venn diagram that Noah was referring to is, I thought it'd be an interesting way to kind of understand how this space is developing, especially from the perspective of Yuga Labs, to see like, where do these little pockets of communities live on chain? And so it's interesting. Basically, what we did is we looked at a Venn diagram of the 5 collections that now comprise Yuga Labs. So CryptoPunks, Meebits, Bored Apes, Kennel Club, and Mutant Apes, and looked at the number of wallets that overlap for specific collections. So if you're able to pin the tweet in the spaces, that'd be super cool. But basically, what we did is we condensed all these communities to see how many wallets actually hold the entire collection of Punks, Meebits, Apes, Mutant Apes, and Kennel Club, and we found it right in the center. It's only about 98, probably closer to 100 now, I'd imagine.
Sorry, degendata. Can I interrupt you for one moment just to expose myself at how new I am to this? But how do I pin the tweet up here?
Oh, there we go.
I did it. Amazing. Thank you.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know how to do it. I've seen people do it, though. So
there we go. Thank you. And please continue.
For sure. You can kind of see like this like new ecosystem growing. And this is one of the cool things that I find about on-chain data and the visibility of all this stuff is like, the quantifiable network of what Yuga Labs now has is really cool. Like you see, like there's some just CryptoPunk only, some Bored Ape only, a lot of overlap between all the collections. And so we just kind of thought this was a fun way to visualize like what this acquisition meant to the space. And I think it'd be really cool to run this in called 3 months as, you know, Yuga Labs kind of figures out what's the next steps in this space, or what's the next steps for punks and Meebits.
Now, with those next steps, like we're seeing like a lot of these collaborations linking in here. I mean, have you been seeing through some of the charts that you've shared with me on the side, like have you seen an influx from the news, you know, from where some of these projects have been, you know, I mean, have we seen an intake in popularity in maybe Meebits now that they're being acquired, you know, as a lower entry point into getting into Yuga Labs?
Yeah, 100%. So that's a really good question. And I can post a tweet and I'll tag this in a second. But we looked at basically the number of unique holders of each collection over time, and then kind of annotated the date of the Yuga Larva Lab kind of acquisition. And for the punks didn't really kind of move in terms of the total collector base. I imagine just because of a higher entry point. But Meebits actually saw about a 300 to 400 new users enter like post announcement like over the next 2 days, which is, you know, roughly around $12 million like new buyers in the space. So it's interesting to see that, and then the floor price of Meebits essentially doubled alongside that, and things have kind of cooled down. Another interesting thing, I just kind of know to kind of piggyback off that point. I mean, recently we saw the announcement of the ape token, which was pretty exciting. We saw similar trends of like new holders buying collections in the Bored Ape community in like response to, you know, like farming ape tokens prior to the launch. So we saw like an uptick in the price of mutant apes, and the price of Kennel Club as well. But you didn't see it again as clear in like the OG Bored Ape collection, just because, again, I think higher price point, it's harder to just see like massive volume increase in something that's already relatively expensive. But I'll drop a tweet on that really quick, and I'll give it just so you guys can see what I'm talking about.
I have it posted right now. I'm streaming live the exact charts that he's talking about. But, you know, using that data and that analysis, you know, does show the trajectory of where different acquisitions and different releases can, you know, have influence on a particular project. Like you saw, like lower entry point for maybe Meebits was able to, you know, maybe have a little bit better of a rebound or an upward trajectory upon this news. There again, none of this is ever financial advice. All it is looking at the data that is presented. And that's what's excellent about, you know, presenting this data. And, you know, kind of loops back into how does all this create ownership? Because prior Meebits and CryptoPunks really didn't have that commercial ownership. You'd have the individual rights behind it. And with those individual rights, you can create, you know, pretty much your own characters, which we have seen in the space with, I don't know if you would call myself a character or Cool Blue a character or SpottieWiFi a character, but we're, you know, being seen out there as NFTs that are almost like putting rims on a car. You know, you have your NFT, you're able to upgrade them, you're able to do something with them. And now having that acquisition and having that commercial use is bringing more eyes and light to CryptoPunks and to Meebits. Someone else speaking, one of our speakers here, Bored Becky or Spottie, do you guys want to touch base on that and a little bit on the difference between the individual property rights that we had as maybe CryptoPunks or Meebit holders, and then going into that commercial usage?
Maybe we can go to Bored Becky really quick, and will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Bored Becky, but actually my name is Ashley. So I think that leads into this conversation. My name's Ashley. I'm a collector. I'm new owner of Game Lady Squad as of last August. But Bored Becky is my, not so much my pseudonym, but more my character that I run around with online in this crazy space. And really, it's weird because I feel like I refer to myself in third person all the time because I'm always talking about Becky, but it's not me. So I kind of, with some intention, but I didn't expect, I didn't necessarily expect to see where this would go. But when I first got my ape, I named her. Before I named her, I made sure I could buy a URL so that way, you know, if one day I wanted to, I like had this whole package. I made sure the name that, like, I'm still not Bored Becky on Twitter. It's I am Bored Becky because Bored Becky was not available, but I went for it anyway. I went into speed rather than perfection. But yeah, if I couldn't have got that URL, Bored Becky would have a different name. I don't know what it would be. But it's been really fun, this journey, and having, you know, some, I don't know what the right word is, a platform, I suppose. And I am, you know, looking at some fun opportunities for my ape. I have, for example, coming soon, and you'll see more info about it, but Becky's going to be on a cereal box. Like, I'm giving license to her, and yes, I am getting paid to give that license, which is really fun, and it's more of an experiment, but I hope it's successful. And that was what attracted me to buying my ape, was that intellectual property and commercial rights. I thought it was fun. I thought, for those of you who follow me may know, I have like an Instagram account, and I just thought it would be fun to be, you know, participating in social media in a new and weird way. And I wanted to create a character around her. I wasn't expecting to monetize her so much at the time, but I think, oh, you know, I could create an Etsy shop and have merch and all of that stuff. And I wouldn't have been able to do that with other projects at the time that didn't offer that like exclusive commercial right. So I just thought it was an interesting new world that it would go somewhere. I didn't think it would go as far as it has. I'm excited. I haven't made it. I bought it sort of early on, and until now it's kind of just sat in my wallet as my like connection to crypto punks. And now I'm like, oh, maybe I can do something. And I will say, and I'm sorry, it's not that early, but it still feels a little early for me this morning, so I'm not as articulate as I'd like to be. But the a clear example is, like, I had a couple World of Women, and they were both listed at a time just before the market really popped off with them, a few months back, and suddenly they announced exclusive commercial rights, and this changed, and what I thought was an obnoxiously priced World of Women sold from under me, and I was but that, you know, automatically changed the perspective and changed the consumer thinking and changed, you know, what I'm assuming people are thinking are the opportunities and possibilities, because they were not offering that full exclusive rights before. So I think that showcases how it can be important, but I also think it, you know, the brand and whatever, it needs to be culturally relevant for it to matter, unless you're a marketing genius and can create something important all on your own.
You bring up such a good point about using those commercial rights, like using the IP that we essentially bought into with our avatars. But it brings up a question, because I'm imagining someone who is familiar with Web2 coming in here, hearing this, and thinking, well, why not just hire someone on Fiverr to draw a logo? Like, what makes it special that it's an NFT specifically? So I'd love to bring that question to Spottie as well to start with. What are your thoughts on why an NFT though? It's more expensive than a typical logo and URL would be if you just hired Fiverr or something like that. But what makes it so unique? And will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Leslie. I'm SpottieWiFi. I am the world's only crypto punk rapper, as right now, at least. Now it's day to day because we have the IP rights.
We'll always be the first one, though.
I appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, I think that's a great question. To me, the difference between having a Fiverr, you know, having an artist or even creating my own character, sketching out my own character visually, and joining an NFT community and building a character around one NFT from a collection is really the overused word community. Because when I bought my CryptoPunk last year, that was really what clicked for me, was when I would see people like me or like G Money or like several other CryptoPunks who they were part of a community, and people would listen to them and tune in to hear what they're saying, not just because, but largely because they are represented online by this CryptoPunk, and that punk signals to the world something about them. It's like, not to be cheesy because we're with Vayner NFT, but like Gary Vee is always saying, everything you buy, you're influenced by what people are going to think about it, what it's going to signal to the world. So if I'm on stage with a CryptoPunk, that signals one thing. If I'm on with the Ape, it's another thing. Amoeba, another thing. World of Women, Fame Ladies. Every community has their own, vibe, their own ethos. So to me, it's all about, you have a built-in audience here. I thought about it like, if I start making music as a CryptoPunk, I'll have a captivated audience right out the gate, where it's just a head start, because there's X number of thousand CryptoPunk owners that their ears are gonna perk up, at least, whether they like it or not, whether they dig the music or not. They're gonna hear about it and they're gonna be like, "Whoa, I haven't seen that before." So that's really, to me, what the difference is. Now, if I hired a 5 artist, I was like, "Hey, I want to create an 8-bit character rapper. Can you illustrate this 8-bit character for me from scratch?" It would be cool, but I would have that much more legwork to do in the beginning to find that initial audience, and that sometimes is the hardest part, is just getting the snowball packed up so that you can start to roll with, from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed it, Spotty. Ashley, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think one of the other aspects is like the technical side on top of all of that, which I think is probably the most important that you mentioned, Spotty. But, shout out to Jenkins the Ballet as an example that's doing something really cool. And by the way, full disclosure, I don't own any Jenkins NFTs. I wish I bought them. I knew I should have. I think I didn't have ETH at the time. But what I did do was license my 2 apes and 2 mutants with people who are holding Jenkins, the Ballet NFTs, and the proof of ownership. The NFT is the proof of ownership. So in order to license the likeness of these NFTs, and again, they have to be culturally important, I think, to matter. But there's that. It's on the blockchain. They can check, make sure you're the rightful owner, and if I decide to no longer be the rightful owner, the next person is going to be the beneficiary of that licensing, which is really interesting. And I still think that there's definitely some, there's going to be some kinks, probably, and unexpected things that come with the changing of hands of NFTs as they're, being agreed to be used. But that blockchain component is really important in this conversation too.
It is everything. It's the reason why we're here. So thank you for bringing up that point. That's exactly what I see. And then I actually have a question specifically for Novo as well. But it's exactly what I see is these audiences that you're already a part of, these communities or audiences you already have because of the communities you're a part of, and the ownership that makes everything valid. So I'm seeing this evolution. Obviously, we're all seeing the evolution of the web 1, web 2, web 3, but I'm also seeing throughout this evolution how that impacts the businesses and brands that we build. So initially we had IRL businesses, right? Small shop, maybe boutiques, and it's different for every industry. And then Web 2, kind of the era of the influencer, all of a sudden people could get paid for creating content and delivering value to an audience or entertainment or whatever that value is. Education goes on. And in Web 3, it seems like it's taking that to the next level. And this new iteration is these characters that are actually brands that have the branding tied in with them. You have the audience already with the communities that they're a part of. You have, what could be perceived as the logo or the image or the face. You have these ENSs. And then when you really build out these characters, you have their social media account. You have merge with them. Eventually, we'll get into the metaverse. They'll have their own houses, their own businesses in the digital world. So even whenever you look at, and whether you're on the side of buying and holding or flipping, or if you want to stay your character, your avatar forever, or if you want to eventually sell it. When people do sell these packages or license these packages, you're selling or licensing so more than what you could in Web 2, which is your social media account or your personal time of just showing up and doing a video with someone else, for example, if you're a YouTuber. And with Web 3, it's these entire worlds. It's an actual digital person. So that brings me to my next question for all of you. And I do want to start with Crypto Novo because it seems like this isn't just a brand that you're building, Novo. This is becoming a huge part of your life. This is someone you identify with in the real world and in the digital world. So I want to get your perspective on where you're thinking of, because you also said at NFT NYC that you don't want to sell your punk. You don't want to make $1 million by selling your punk. You want to make $1 million, for example, with your punk. And you said it more eloquently than I did just now, but I want to hear more from you on where your perspective lies in building this Crypto Novo character in the metaverse.
It's about building your brand, and what better way to do it with an equal playing field, which the blockchain technology has helped, very similar to Spottie. First is first, he's out there, it's on chain. SpottieWiFi was born when that CryptoPunk was born, and the name Spottie obviously worked in with the spots that's on his CryptoPunk. Same with degendata. He pretty much has a company based around his CryptoPunk. The CryptoPunk might sell with his company. So that's his marketing piece that he's proud of, he's established in, and it kind of does show your flex in the game. It does show that you're, just by your simple PFP pitch, shows that you're maybe tech savvy, maybe that you have been 2 steps ahead in the game. For me personally, I just like having fun, and I enjoy, interacting with people IRL, because we've all been trapped in for so long prior to that. And, trying not to show my real identity due to prior jobs just kind of evolved. When I got a job at Vayner, I left the mask on in my digital meetings. People enjoyed it. It created more conversation, and that conversation creates education, because I can learn their background. They can learn from my background. And it is a selling point selfishly too, where I can set myself out compared to someone else, because I am running around with a clown nose and a tassel hat and big shades. Very similar to me standing in the crowd watching SpottieWiFi, on stage rapping with other people. It's the exact same thing. So we're all like-minded individuals. And these side hustles now are turning into maybe careers, maybe influencer status, where we can pull in community members who want to do the same things, because we want to have a chance and give that chance to people. So, I think there has been a huge change, at least for me, with my CryptoPunks and Meebits, which I was a maximalist of just because I know the most about it. And then once it got incorporated and we have, the commercial rights to it, it did change my approach and how I can do things with my CryptoPunk. Very comparable to what Bored Apes have been doing and have had a head start for a while. And, we're just catching the CryptoPunks and the Meebits back into it, because that's the best part about this technology, is you can change what's in that contract. You can change what's in there, so it's never set in stone. So it is something that is always going to evolve. And I like to either hear from degendata or Spottie and kind of how you're using your CryptoPunk to evolve your personal conquest to be successful in your line of work.
Yeah, thanks, Nova. I think that's a great point. And Spottie, you said something earlier about it. and I think we kind of took a similar approach when we were starting to build out degendata, is we purchased a CryptoPunk because we wanted to be a part of a community that really liked NFTs, that's active and participates in this space. And there's no better way to signal to the people that you're building products for than being a part of that group themselves. So we basically, I mean, as much as we love NFTs in general and crypto, you know, from like a holistic point of view, when you dive down these specific rabbit holes, be it NFTs or DAOs or whatever, when you're building products for those people or catering to those audiences, you want to make sure you're doing it in a way that they understand. And so we kind of, I mean, we took out, we said, well, if we're going to build tools and products around this space for an audience that likes this stuff, it only makes sense to be doing it from of what they think like someone should, that they'd listen to, like somebody who knows this space, who, you know, represents what NFTs are, whether it's a punk, an ape, or whatever, something that signals that you've got skin in the game, you're building it for the right reasons. and I think kind of, Nova, to your point, it's like understanding that NFTs are more than just profile pictures. It's like the value of a punk has some base, or any NFT has some base value, but like the things you build around it, the personas and like the value that accrues to a specific punk or ape or Weebit or whatever is really like a reflection of the work that's put in. So I think like, you know, like you can't look at any other crypto punk that has a tassel hat or and not think Novo first. I mean, there's certain characteristics, be it it's general, that a lot of punks or other NFTs may have, but there are always like there's always things you associate to it. I think that's really like the really cool thing. And same with you, Spotty. Like Spots, there's no other NFT in the world that can be associated with Spots and not be thought of a Spotty. So I think like, you know, if you think about it from outside of the profile picture and the value that you're driving around specific characteristics of your punk or of your NFT, like it's a really cool way to think like it's more than a profile picture. You can build brands and identities around them while bootstrapping a community of people who are really into this stuff. And that's kind of the approach that we kind of thought about.
Hey, I wanted to chime in real quick. That, you know, I've seen some, especially punk. You know, there's some mixed reviews of Larva Labs selling the right, you know, to the punks and the Meebits. A lot of punks have some different reactions. You know, some people are like, oh, you know, what if now Yuga Labs sells it to some other corporation down the road or whatever? And, you know, could the rights change? And I think, I don't necessarily know the answer, but I think the answer is yes, the rights probably could change. So to me, I think the real key is like, if you're trying to build a brand around a collection that is not, you know, CCO, you know, or where the IP rights are licensed and not owned by you, I think the key is really you're trying to build a brand that is elevated or accelerated by that asset that you are attaching to it or that you're associating with it, but you don't want your brand to be reliant on it, right? Like at this point, Crypto Novo is Crypto Novo. Degendata is Degendata. G Money is G Money. SC Tropo and the Aussies Trope, you know what I mean? Like they could sell their punks, they could sell their apes, not that they would, but if they did, they've built that brand, built those brands regardless of their profile picture. Obviously they're tied and they'll probably be linked for life and people will think of them together if they were here in these times. But it really just bootstrap and accelerate the building of those brands. But those brands aren't reliant on those JPEG. But if your quote unquote brand, you know, is punk 1, 2, 3, 4, well, like, come on, like is that really a brand? Are you really building a brand, or are you just like setting up a Twitter for a JPEG? You know what I mean? And I think that's the difference that is nuanced.
That's a super great point, Spotty. I totally agree with you.
And yeah, go ahead, Crypto Nova.
No, I was going to say, and that is kind of like the before and after look at all of this. Like, you know, before, what did it look like before the acquisition, after, and then there's always the future of it. I just, you know, recently just thinking of, just because it's on the topic of a lot of people's minds is ApeCoin, and like how many people are actually maybe sold out of ApeCoin because for whatever reason, but how many of them bought an ape, or excuse me, bought a CryptoPunk or bought a Meebit because now maybe they want to get in on the circle and they couldn't have afforded a CryptoPunk, because some people that have 4 or 5 apes with the ape coins that they got, they could essentially buy a CryptoPunk and then now be established in the game. How many people cashed it out? How many people went and bought kennels? How many people went and bought mutants? And the community aspect of it, which I value the most, is having it almost a self-organic ecosystem where that, those coins are coming in and they're being spent and generated within the same ecosystem, and making for derivative projects, making it possible for people to level up and get a CryptoPunk that maybe they could have never had, or maybe, purchasing a Meebit, which they never thought of back in the day. But it's that an after effect. And, that Venn diagram here, I want to see how that evolves and looks, through time, and see that target in the middle, that bullseye of 98, if that gets larger or smaller, and see if it gets distributed. Because that's what it is in this community, is having that distribution of the NFTs out there. That's what gets your voice out there. You see it more on secondary sales, that community growing, rather than a huge pump and dump with one person, doing the distribution of it. So you want to get that organic growth out there. I want to be mindful of time, because I know that we do have meetings, which we can always be late for, because at least we're accountable for what we're doing right now. But, loop in, Bored Becky on maybe a question like this. What is the before and after look like right now? Because like, you're like the next Tony the Tiger, snack, crackle, and pop, where you're on a cereal box right now with, your Bored Ape with those wicked teeth, and hopefully sugar's not doing it to those teeth, but you are staying 2 steps ahead. So how does it look staying 2 steps ahead in the game? I mean, is this going to evolve even more, where you're going to have more opportunities, or is it going to be something where, you're going to tone it back and maybe take the ownership back into your own hands, rather than giving it out to, the Web 2.0 people who are trying to get in this Web 3.0 space?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not overly romantic, if I'm being honest, and I don't want to disappoint people, like, about the Web 2 versus Web 3. For me, I just think that I like exploring the new spaces and the new kind of avenues that can be taken, and I kind of lean into them with very little expectation, just to kind of see how it plays out. So I'm excited to be doing a few things that may set a precedent. I don't know if it will or not, but there will certainly be some learnings along the way. And the way I look at all of this is that, like, when I bought Becky for 1.85 Ethereum, like, I just wanted to be a part of all this. I wasn't expecting it to become like a significant part of my life. And so everything now and moving forward is like gravy and fun. And the benefit is like all of these really awesome connections with cool people, like for Vayner NFT to be reaching out and say, hey, you want to chat with us? I'm like, that's fucking sweet. So, I do expect that if I'm involved in more things, it will create more visibility, which may open up doors to be involved in other things. And so I don't, again, have, I'm not overly romantic about where it all goes. I'm just kind of planning to have a little bit of fun along the way. And if there comes a time where I need to be a lot more like strategic and definitive about what I want, then I'll check myself at that time. But right now, I actually kind of like the idea of marrying the Web 2 and Web 3, because I think that what that can do is bring a lot of exposure to Web 3 to people who really don't understand kind of what it's all going to mean. So I like, and even with Fame Lady Squad, it's something that I think we want to do through that avenue too, is just, our ladies are really fun and cool and hot, and like, we think they're things people would like, and that, even if someone never buys into the project or even doesn't buy an NFT, if they learn about what Web3 is and decides they want to learn a little bit about the metaverse, and that's kind of the introduction or a start point that sparked some interest, like, I think that's a win. So we'll see. I mean, come back to me in a year, because I'll tell you right now that if we spoke a year ago, like, the last thing I thought I'd be doing right now is be on a spaces with you guys with like a really badass ape with like ape coin in her eyeballs. Like feeling super excited about it all. So
I go back to that so much, Ashley. On a year ago, I would never picture myself like in going to large conferences and events, seeing myself blue, putting a wig on just to look like a JPEG that I paid a lot of money for. Like I just wish I could tell my younger self that life was going to be this wild, because it is definitely a wild ride. And I want to be mindful of this time, but I want to add on one point that came to me when Spottie was talking about this next level of businesses within Web3. And I think the fact that it's not tied to one person, which is what we've seen a lot in Web2, where the actual, I'm specifically referring to influencer marketing, where the actual influencer has to be there and has to be present. And it's very different than having an avatar, building a business around an avatar or an NFT specifically. And it made me realize that there's more longevity to the brands and businesses that we are building right now for that reason. And I love saying so much that how this is impacting people by, for example, artists with the royalties. I love the example of Van Gogh passed away without having sold a single painting for more than $100. And if his paintings would have been NFTs, then even if his life had played out the exact same way, his estate and his family would be millionaires right now because of that royalty in perpetuity aspect of NFTs. And so for these brands and businesses built in Web3, that also means that these can be the next type of generational wealth that's created. And these businesses and families can be passed on for a generation or sold. And that's just so powerful to me, thinking of this like generational impact that we're having here, which is also what's making us feel really special about being so early to something that is truly revolutionary. And I feel especially special to be on the stage speaking with the trailblazers, the pioneers of this evolution. So Crypto Novo, Bored Becky, SpottieWiFi, degendata, thank you so much for being here today and talking about what you're doing in the space, because it is absolutely paving the way for the future of technology and the future of powerful things like generational branding and impact. So thank you so much for everything you do in the space and for being here and talking with me and Novo today. Thank you all. Yeah, Novo, you want to add anything before we close it out?
No, that's it. It's Friday. We want to get these people onto the weekend, but they are trailblazers. You know, I mean, SpottieWiFi, when you first texted me, what are your thoughts on the name SpottieWiFi? And I was just laughing my tail off because it's awesome. Capital A, awesome. And yeah, first CryptoPunk rapper. And I hope there's more, because you know why? That means that people want to follow in your footsteps, just like the footsteps of the trailblazers that blazed the rap scene that you're walking today, you know. And from degendata, you know, when you came up to me, I'm like, well, what? Your company is based around your CryptoPunk? I loved that idea. Bored Becky for what you're doing in the space, staying 2 steps ahead and having that product placement out there. Yeah, I'm just like it, man. You know, let's enjoy what we have. Let's have fun while we're here and let's educate others. You wanted to have that marriage between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0. I'm all about Web 2.0. 2.5, because we got to keep these people coming in, educating them about what they can do in this space, because there's a lot of fun things happening. So with my co-host, Cool Blue, you're part of this too, because you're, every time I see you out there, you're turning into a world of women step by step, one blue outfit at a time. So thank you for what you're doing in this space as well. And that's it for me. I just want to say, everyone have a friendly Friday. Stay positive, love life. Peace.
birthday Friday. We love you. Shout out all of the FP employees in the audience and the ones who allowed us to do this spaces. Thank you everyone so much for being here.
JRS one in the house. Spotty, keep it real. We'll see you out in LA. Thanks, DGen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Becky. Don't get too bored. Peace, 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 peace.